In a world where connection seems to define success, the chosen ones often find themselves walking a different road, one marked by solitude and deep introspection. This path can feel isolating, even painful, as relationships and romantic connections appear distant or unattainable. Yet this solitude is not a punishment. It is a sacred preparation. God, in His infinite wisdom, sets apart those He calls to higher purposes, shaping them through seasons of stillness and separation. Isolation is not an abandonment, but a divine strategy, a place where distractions fade and God's voice becomes unmistakably clear. Think of this time as a chrysalis, where transformation occurs away from the eyes of the world. In solitude, the chosen ones are refined, strengthened, and prepared for the immense calling that lies ahead. As we journey together, we will uncover why this solitude is vital and how it serves as a profound spiritual gift. Reflect on your own experiences and see if God is speaking to you through these moments of quiet. If this resonates with your heart, like this video, subscribe to join our community, and let's walk this path of faith together. Trust that God's purpose for you is unfolding perfectly, even in isolation. Solitude, the sacred space for divine connection. Solitude is a gift, though it often feels like anything but. For the chosen ones, it can initially seem like a burden, an uncomfortable reminder of the absence of earthly companionship. However, in the stillness of solitude, there is a divine invitation to draw nearer to God. It is here, away from distractions and the noise of the world, that God's voice becomes clearest, His presence most profound. Throughout the Bible, God uses moments of solitude to prepare His people for their callings. Consider Moses, who spent 40 years in the desert tending sheep before encountering God in the burning bush. It was in this wilderness that Moses was prepared for the monumental task of leading the Israelites out of Egypt. Similarly, Elijah retreated to a cave, where he experienced the still, small voice of God, guiding him through despair. Even Jesus, before beginning His public ministry, withdrew to the wilderness to fast, pray, and confront temptation. These moments were not acts of abandonment, but divine preparation, shaping them for the immense responsibilities ahead. For the chosen ones today, solitude is no different. It serves as a crucible, refining faith and character. In this sacred space, we are stripped of worldly distractions, social obligations, material pursuits, and even personal desires, leaving room for God to work within us. This process can be uncomfortable, as it exposes our fears, weaknesses, and insecurities. But it is in this vulnerability that God's strength is revealed. As Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Solitude also offers clarity, a divine lens through which we can better discern God's will for our lives. When we are surrounded by the constant demands and opinions of others, it becomes difficult to hear His guidance. In silence, however, we can tune our hearts to His frequency. This is the beauty of isolation. It creates an environment where we can reflect, pray, and seek God's direction without interference. Furthermore, solitude strengthens our spiritual alignment. When we rely solely on human relationships for validation and comfort, we risk placing them above our relationship with God. Solitude corrects this imbalance, reminding us that He alone is our source of strength and peace. Psalm 46:10 invites us to be still and know that I am God. In the stillness, we discover a deeper trust in Him, a faith that is unshakable because it is rooted in the Creator, not the creation. Though challenging, solitude is a sacred gift. It is the place where the chosen ones are refined, renewed, and reoriented toward their divine purpose. For those who embrace this season, the rewards are immeasurable: a closer walk with God, a clearer sense of purpose, and an unwavering strength to fulfill their calling. So, if you find yourself alone today, remember this: you are not abandoned, you are being prepared. Trust in God's timing, for in the stillness, He is nearer than ever before. Why relationships may seem distant. For the chosen ones, relationships, whether romantic or social, often feel elusive, as if they are just beyond reach. This distance is not a reflection of personal inadequacy or a lack of love from others. Instead, it is a purposeful part of the divine path that God has set before them. Relationships, while beautiful and fulfilling, can also serve as distractions, pulling the heart and mind away from the intense spiritual focus required for the chosen ones to fulfill their calling. God often calls His chosen to a life that prioritizes spiritual growth and alignment with His will above all else. Romantic relationships and deep social connections, while blessings, can sometimes compete with this focus. They demand emotional energy, attention, and time, resources that God is asking His chosen to direct fully toward their purpose. This isn't to say that relationships are inherently bad or unimportant. Rather, in the lives of the chosen ones, they may be postponed or withheld until the appointed time, when they will no longer interfere with God's work. Consider the story of Paul the Apostle, who chose a life of singleness to focus entirely on spreading the gospel. In 1 Corinthians 7:32-34, Paul writes, "An unmarried man is concerned about the Lord's affairs, how he can please the Lord. But a married man is concerned about the affairs of this world, how he can please his wife, and his interests are divided." Paul recognized that relationships, though valuable, could divide one's attention from a higher calling. For many chosen ones, this principle still holds true. The distance from relationships is not a punishment. It is a divine protection. God knows what lies ahead, and He understands what will help or hinder His chosen in their mission. Relationships, especially romantic ones, have the potential to tether the chosen ones to worldly concerns, diluting their spiritual focus. By keeping these connections at bay, God is guarding their hearts and minds, ensuring that nothing distracts them from the preparation they need to fulfill their destiny. Additionally, the unique path of the chosen ones can make it difficult for others to understand or relate to them. Their perspectives, priorities, and spiritual depth often set them apart, making them feel out of place in conventional relationships. Yet this separation is a blessing in disguise. It creates space for the chosen ones to develop a stronger relationship with God and to rely on Him as their ultimate source of love, comfort, and companionship. While the absence of relationships can feel isolating, it is a reminder that God's timing is perfect. When the chosen ones are ready, when their hearts are fully aligned with God's will, He will bring the right people into their lives, those who will complement their mission rather than distract from it. Until then, this season of distance is a gift, a time to focus entirely on the spiritual journey and the divine purpose that lies ahead. Lessons from biblical and historical figures. The lives of great leaders and spiritual figures often reveal a recurring pattern. Before they could fulfill their divine missions, they were called into seasons of isolation. These periods were not moments of abandonment, but rather profound times of preparation, clarity, and transformation. For the chosen ones today, these stories offer a powerful reminder that solitude is an essential step in God's plan. Moses is one of the most striking examples of how isolation can lead to purpose. Before he became the great deliverer of Israel, Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, tending sheep. This time in solitude was not wasted. It was a divine classroom where Moses learned humility, patience, and reliance on God. When God appeared to him in the burning bush, Moses was ready, not because of his own strength, but because of the quiet preparation that had taken place in the desert. Similarly, modern-day chosen ones may find themselves in their own desert seasons, wondering why their lives seem so still. Yet just as with Moses, this stillness is a precursor to an extraordinary calling. Elijah, too, experienced the power of solitude. After a dramatic confrontation with the prophets of Baal, Elijah fled into the wilderness, where he felt defeated and alone. But it was in this solitude that God met him, not with fire or an earthquake, but in a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:11-13. This moment illustrates how God often chooses quiet spaces to speak to his chosen, guiding them with a voice that can only be heard in stillness. For those walking the path of isolation today, Elijah's story is a reminder that even in moments of despair, God's presence is near, offering strength and direction. Of all biblical examples, none exemplifies the power of solitude more than Jesus. Before beginning his ministry, Jesus withdrew to the wilderness, fasting and praying for 40 days. During this time, he faced temptation, yet emerged strengthened and resolute in his mission. Later, he would often retreat to lonely places to pray, demonstrating the importance of solitude in maintaining a connection with the Father. For the chosen ones, Jesus' example underscores that isolation is not a departure from purpose, but a vital component of it. Historical figures also reflect this truth. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. spent significant periods in reflection, finding clarity and strength before leading movements that changed the world. Their solitude was not idleness, but preparation, allowing them to align with their purpose and draw on divine guidance. For modern chosen ones, these stories serve as encouragement. Isolation is not the absence of God's hand. It is the evidence of his work. Like Moses, Elijah, and Jesus, those called to extraordinary missions must first walk the path of solitude, where they are equipped, refined, and prepared to fulfill their unique purpose. C.S. Lewis on the beauty of divine isolation. C.S. Lewis, one of Christianity's most profound thinkers, often explored the theme of isolation in his works, presenting it not as a curse, but as a sacred tool of spiritual refinement. He understood solitude as a space where the soul is tested, strengthened, and drawn closer to God. To Lewis, the chosen ones experience isolation not because they are abandoned, but because they are being shaped for a higher calling. His writings invite us to see solitude as a divine crucible, a place where faith is purified and resilience is forged. In the Screwtape Letters, Lewis delves into the spiritual struggle that often accompanies solitude. He acknowledges the temptations and fears that arise when one is alone. Yet he also emphasizes the immense opportunity for growth during these moments. When distractions are stripped away and the noise of the world fades, the soul becomes more attuned to God's voice. Solitude, Lewis suggests, creates a clarity that is difficult to achieve in the chaos of daily life. It is in this stillness that the chosen ones can confront their weaknesses, acknowledge their dependence on God, and grow stronger in faith. Lewis's reflections in The Weight of Glory highlight another aspect of isolation: the longing for deeper, eternal truths. He speaks of the soul's innate desire for connection with God. a yearning that cannot be satisfied by earthly relationships or comforts. This longing often leads the chosen ones into solitude, where they can better understand their divine purpose. In isolation, they come to realize that their ultimate fulfillment lies not in human companionship, but in communion with the Creator. This is not a rejection of relationships, but an elevation of priorities, placing God at the center of one's life. In his fictional works, such as the Chronicles of Narnia, Lewis often uses characters' solitary journeys to symbolize spiritual transformation. Lucy's solitary exploration of Narnia, or Eustace's transformation into a dragon and back again, demonstrate how being set apart can lead to profound change. These narratives remind readers that isolation is a process, not a destination. It is a means through which God prepares his chosen for something greater. For C.S. Lewis, solitude was never meaningless. He believed it to be an essential part of the Christian journey, a time for introspection, reliance on God, and preparation for one's calling. His writings continue to resonate with the chosen ones, encouraging them to embrace isolation as a sacred opportunity to grow closer to God and align their lives with his divine purpose. Trials that strengthen faith. Trials are an inevitable part of the journey for the chosen ones, often appearing during seasons of solitude. While these moments can feel overwhelming, they serve a divine purpose: to strengthen faith, build perseverance, and prepare the chosen ones for the greater responsibilities God has assigned to them. It is through these challenges that spiritual maturity is forged, and the foundation of unwavering trust in God is laid. In solitude, trials often take on a deeply personal form. Stripped of distractions, the chosen ones are left to face their fears, doubts, and weaknesses. This can feel isolating, but it is precisely in this vulnerability that God works most profoundly. As James 1:2-4 reminds us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Each trial is not a punishment, but a tool of refinement, shaping the chosen ones into vessels capable of carrying out God's will. The Bible is filled with examples of individuals whose faith was tested in solitude. Joseph endured years of imprisonment and betrayal before rising to become a leader in Egypt. His trials, though painful, prepared him to forgive his brothers and save countless lives during a famine. Similarly, David, before becoming king, spent years in the wilderness, fleeing from Saul. During this time, he wrote some of the most heartfelt psalms, revealing how his trials deepened his trust in God. These stories serve as reminders that trials are not the end of the journey, but critical steps along the way. For modern-day chosen ones, these challenges may manifest as financial struggles, health issues, broken relationships, or a sense of directionless wandering. While these hardships may seem insurmountable, they are opportunities to draw closer to God, lean on his strength, and build resilience. As Isaiah 40:31 promises, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Trials also clarify priorities, stripping away reliance on worldly comforts and forcing the chosen ones to depend fully on God. This dependence not only strengthens faith, but also cultivates humility and gratitude. The pain of these experiences becomes a source of spiritual power, equipping the chosen ones to face greater challenges and lead others with compassion and wisdom. Every trial has a purpose. For the chosen ones, these tests are not merely obstacles but divine tools, sharpening their faith, molding their character, and preparing them to fulfill the extraordinary calling that God has placed on their lives. In the crucible of solitude, faith is refined, and perseverance is born. From loneliness to peace, finding rest in God. Loneliness, though often heavy and unsettling, can be transformed into a profound peace when placed in God's hands. For the chosen ones, seasons of isolation are not meant to harm, but to guide them closer to the heart of their Creator. This transformation requires trust, prayer, and spiritual surrender, allowing loneliness to become a sacred space where God's presence brings rest and renewal. Trust is the cornerstone of this shift. To move from loneliness to peace, the chosen ones must believe in the divine purpose behind their solitude. As Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. When the weight of loneliness feels unbearable, trust acts as a lifeline, anchoring the soul to the truth that God is present and working, even in silence. Prayer is the bridge that connects this trust to the tangible experience of God's peace. In prayer, the chosen ones can pour out their hearts, offering their pain, doubts, and fears to the one who understands them completely. Philippians 4:6-7 offers a powerful promise. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Prayer transforms loneliness into dialogue, where the stillness of solitude becomes a sacred exchange between the soul and its Creator. Spiritual surrender completes this journey, allowing the chosen ones to release their longing for control and accept God's will fully. Surrender is not giving up. It is entrusting one's burdens to the one who promises rest. Jesus' words in Matthew 11:28-30 are an invitation to this surrender. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. In surrender, loneliness no longer feels like emptiness, but a space filled with God's comforting presence. For the chosen ones, peace is not found in the absence of loneliness, but in embracing it as an opportunity to rest in God's love. By trusting His plan, seeking Him in prayer, and surrendering to His will, loneliness is transformed into a profound sense of spiritual fulfillment. In this rest, the chosen ones are renewed, prepared to walk forward with strength, clarity, and peace, knowing that God's presence is with them every step of the way. You are never truly alone. As you journey through seasons of solitude, remember this truth: you are never truly alone. God walks with you, His presence surrounding you even in the quietest moments. The isolation you feel is not a sign of abandonment, but a divine preparation, shaping you into the person He has called you to be. Trust that He is working all things for your good, even when you cannot yet see the full picture. If today's message has spoken to your heart, we invite you to take this step of faith with us. Like this video, share it with those who need encouragement, and subscribe to join a community of believers walking this path together. By supporting one another in faith, we reflect God's love and grow stronger in our purpose. Remember, you are chosen, loved, and held in the hands of a faithful Creator. You are never alone.